We are officially 17 days away from the NFL draft. Crazy, I know, but the offseason so far has been flying by, right? I mean, from the head coaching fires, new hires, coordinator hires, free agency, this offseason has been moving pretty fast post Super Bowl, right? And I'm excited because, in my opinion, the draft time is one of the most exciting times of the year because your team is bringing in new talent. Rather, if it's going to be future busts, future Hall of Famers, future All Pros, future Super Bowl champions. Nevertheless, though, man, it's so exciting to see these college guys go from collegiate level of football to pro level football. And of course, you're very intrigued and interested to see what your team does throughout the draft weekend. Now, so far throughout this series, I've been covering each and every AFC team. But today, we are locking into the third AFC team I have on my list, which is the AFC East, man. That is, of course, the Patriots, the Jets, Dolphins, and the Bills, right? A very tough nose division right now, ran by the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. But there's been so much offseason moves and a lot of incoming talent away for these teams picking high. I think the Bills, I think they still win it going forward. We'll talk about that later on in the offseason. But I think these other teams that are kind of at the bottom right now, they will get better from what they've done so far in free agency and also what they can potentially do in the NFL draft and also the coaches they hired during the offseason as well. But before I get into all that, thank y'all so much for tapping in, man. This series so far on YouTube has been really good. Right, I think we've seen more than 50 plus views on each video, right, so far. Let's get this to 100 views by the time the next one drops. I'll be finishing up the AFC with the AFC West, of course, the next game. And I'm sorry, the next video. And then I'll start moving into the NFC side of things before the draft gets here. Nevertheless, though, man, thank y'all so much for tapping in. If you're not already subbed to the channel, please sub to the channel, subscribe, comment down below, as well as if you listen to on Spotify, follow the podcast. And if you listen to Apple Podcasts as well, make sure you follow, rate the show 5 stars. However you do it on that side of things, man, make sure you lock in. But like I've always done so far with this series, I want to go in draft order for each team in that said division. And since we're starting with the AFC, well, since we're continuing with the AFC East today, we're continuing with the AFC East. I want to begin with the New England Patriots, of course, because they had the 4th overall pick in this year's NFL draft. Now, before I get into their draft, and like I said, it's a 4-round mock draft, right? No trades for those who are new to this series. 4-round mock, no trades, right? Keeping things real simple and sweet. But before I get into these mocks, I always like to discuss what said team did during the offseason, right? The pieces they brought in, the pieces they left. And I think the Patriots, without question, one of the most busiest, active, and, very intriguing teams so far in the offseason, right? First of all, they fired Gerard Mayo. They brought in Mike Vrabel. That was pretty much a worst kept secret in the NFL, right? If Mayo were to get fired, and he did, unfortunately. But they brought in Mike Vrabel. He brings in Josh McDaniels, some former other staff members from his Tennessee days. And of course, he's bringing in that Patriot mentality also mixed in with the great mind of Vrabel as a head coach and also a franchise, leader, a leader amongst men, and also a great coach, in my opinion, right? And the Patriots had a ton of money to spend in the offseason. And one of the things was, looking at what potentially would they do to bring in, well, what would their departures look like, right? Because they lost some, interesting pieces, I will say, more so depth in a few starters, namely David Andrews, who I thought was one of the biggest starters they lost. Juwan Bentley, their starting linebacker. David Andrews, of course, was the starting center. Siani Takati, I think I say to pronounce his last name, starting linebacker. I thought he was serviceable as well. Jonathan Jones as well, right? Kind of saw that with Carlton Davis coming in. You already have Christian Gonzalez, right? You have Marcus Jones in our secondary as well. So you're trying to go into more of a youth movement in a sense, right? Carlton Davis is, 27 going on 28 this year. Jonathan Jones was more in his early 30s. So you don't want to get a bit younger and also just as good. I think Carlton Davis had a fantastic season with the Lions last year before breaking his jaw. So, it makes a lot of sense on why they did that, right? But let's talk about their additions because, like I said, they had a lot of additions. Of course, Carlton Davis, big-time signing, right? I think he's getting paid around $19 million now as a cornerback 2 for this Patriots team. They went out and signed Harold Landry, right? Coming over for Tennessee. Big move for that. Milton Williams, one of their bigger signings this offseason, bringing in that D tackle to play alongside Christian Barmore, who hopefully can be healthy this year, coming off that blood clot issues he had last year. Stephon Diggs, right, bringing in that, as of right now, wide receiver one to a room that has a desperate need for wide receiver talent and production, right, and overall an alpha leader. They signed a couple of depth pieces. Robert Spillane, I'm pretty sure he'll start. Mac Hollins, good wide receiver in the room, right? He comes from the Buffalo Bills. He understands the AFC East football. And he's just a good leader to have in that room where, a lot of young guys could be coming in alongside Stephon Diggs himself. Morgan Moses starting, I want to say more than likely right tackle. Garrett Bradbury, right? He got cut from the Vikings. They bring in a new center. I like that signing a lot. Marcus Epps, veteran safety coming over for the Raiders. Jake Gibbons, right? A former depth linebacker for the Titans, understands the defense and philosophies that Mike Vrabel and that coaching staff wants to work with. And those are some of their most notable signings, and of course they had a lot of depth pieces as well. So, the biggest thing I took away was that they tried their hardest to allocate the resources to bring in a way better product than what they had last year from a roster standpoint. And I love to see that because they have a young franchise quarterback. You must be able to take advantage of a quarterback on a rookie deal to add as much talent as possible to compete and also put your team in a situation where they have success going forward. And of course, your draft is going to be really big for them as well. Now, in the draft, they have 1 first-round pick, 1 second-round pick, 2 third-round picks, and a 4th-round pick as of right now. So they can bring in some big-time starters and some key contributors year one with this draft class, right? Now, of course, this draft is going to be ran by their current GM. And I can't think of his name right now. I think it's kind of a GM by committee over there in New England. They may have a guy per se. I'll look that up while I'm talking about this. But of course, Mike Vrabel's going to have a huge input on, how things are ran. And I'm quite sure that was one of the main reasons why he came over to the Patriots, because he wanted the ability to run the team from a coaching standpoint and also a general manager standpoint as well. Right now, their de facto GM is Elliott Wolf, right? So he's been leading the team pretty much according to Google since the departure of Bill Belichick. But you're going to have Elliott Wolf and also Mike Vrabel running the show, right? So I expect to see trenches in this draft class. I expect to see a running back in this draft class and also some offensive talent as well, right? So let's see how I cook this draft up. Now, I tried to go based off so far in all these mock drafts and what I would do and where I think the team is leaning towards, what I'm saying, if they possibly can, if they're available at the said spot. So at pick number 4, I have the New England Patriots selecting offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU. I think it makes plenty of sense right here, right? There's a possibility that Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, all of these, even Jalen Walker, right? All of these potential big time draft selections could be at this spot, right? I think Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter will be going throughout the first 3 picks. So at pick 4, I've read some things that they do love Jalon Walker a lot out of Georgia, the linebacker edge rusher. But I think it's best for them to get the best tackle in this year's draft, right? I don't care about the arm size, the arm length, or whatever it is, man. This guy is a unanimous All-American tackle. He was a phenomenon coming in out of high school, former 5-star recruit. Stepped onto the scene week 1 in the 2019 season. I'm sorry. Well, math is way off. Stepped on the scene the 2022 season, freshman year, and had to go against Jared Verse, future top 15, top 18 pick in the NFL draft, right? He was an All-American himself. Jared Verse was phenomenal in college for FSU. And he had to take on that challenge week 1 of the college football season as a freshman. And he admitted that he struggled a bit, but he got thrown into the fire, and that helped him out throughout his career. He ended up having a very solid game, and it paved the way from going forward, right? He became, without question, one of the best offensive linemen in college football throughout his duration in college, in my opinion. He's a fantastic player, in my opinion, right? I think he can definitely play some guard, but I think he should play tackle until proven otherwise. I think he'd be a great fit for this Patriots offense. We all know Mike Vrabel loves his trenches on both sides of the football, and he can be that legitimate blindside protection and cornerstone piece with the Patriots going forward in the direction they're going into pretty much just rebuild, but also getting back to potentially championship level football. So I like the Will Campbell pickup. Like I said, you're probably going to have a wide selection of picks right here. You could also trade down, in my opinion, as well, but don't think twice about it, in my opinion. Grab the best tackle in this year's draft. And I think Will Campbell will definitely, in my opinion, be the pick. Now, moving on to the second round, pick 38. I talked about in the preview where I think the Patriots will go with these draft picks. I think they're going to try to address trenches on both sides of the football, a running back, and also more offensive weapons, that being a receiver. I have Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Now, the Patriots have made a lot of noise prior to the Stephon Diggs signing, potentially trying to trade for DK Metcalf. And of course, hoping that T. Higgins will hit the free agency market where they give him a significant bag, right? Unfortunately, they were unable to because I keep saying Stephon Diggs, but DK Metcalf got traded to the Steelers, and T. Higgins ended up re-signing with the Bengals on a massive contract. All great things for them. But the Patriots, I think they still have a need for a big-time receiver on the outside, right? That can play their X or Y depending on how they do things offensively. A guy that can go out there and win the 50-50 balls and be that big target for Drake May to lean on, right? That has been an emphasis throughout the offseason, and I think they addressed that in the draft. Jaden Higgins comes in from Iowa State, big-time receiver, 6'3", 6'4", kind of reminds you of T. Higgins a bit, right? Maybe a bit faster, may just be as good as a route runner entering the NFL, right? He was a dog for Iowa State alongside Jalen Noel, and he's a great, great wide receiver two, potentially wide receiver one option if they can work things out with this offense led by Josh McDaniels, and of course how it pairs up with Drake May. And I think this would be a solid receiving core going forward with Stephon Diggs, Higgins, Jalen Polk, who you can think will develop in year two, right, in a new system, and also Javon Baker, two receivers they drafted last year who they passed up on Ladd McConkey for. But nevertheless, though, they brought in some weapons last year, paired it up with the guys potentially coming in with Stephon Diggs, a receiver at round two. You still have Pop Douglas, Keyshawn Boutte, Austin Hooper. Is looking very promising for this Patriots offense if they can add some more weapons throughout the draft and whatnot. All right. So they have a better receiving core, and I think that bodes well for Drake May's development. But in round three at pick 69, you continue to add pieces, right, to this offense, right? They must do a better job at just acquiring as many pieces and talent as possible for Drake May to work with, and also for McDaniels to work with offensively as a play caller. I think at pick 69, you got to go running back right here, right? You have Ramondre Stevenson, but he fell off a cliff last year. I'm not a big fan of him, and I'm not sure if he can get back to what he once was 2 years ago, right? You have Antonio Gibson as well, but he's a shell of himself now pretty much ever since his rookie season in Washington. I think right here you go running back, you bring in a potential RB1, a bell cow guy that doesn't have fumbling issues, can definitely be a guy you can lean on for 20 plus carries a game. He comes from the Iowa State, not state, but the one of the states of the 50 states in America, but out of Iowa Hawkeye, Caleb Johnson. He was a phenomenal running back in the Big Ten this year, in my opinion. An unsung running back, in my opinion, as well, because you had the guys such as, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, Travion Henderson, Quinton Judkins, two of those last guys I named are entering the draft this year. But Caleb Johnson definitely held it on his own last year, right? He definitely did a really good job for the Iowa offense and was the bell cow and everything they did positive for Iowa's offense, right? He's a bit on the slower side, around like a 4.5 8, I want to say, maybe in a 4.6, but I think he's more football fast than 40 fast, right? He's a downhill runner. He's really agile in space. He can make you miss on the first move. He won't be brought down on first contact. I think this would be a great running back to pair with the offense weapons they have. And also, be a spellback to Ramondre Stevenson, right? He brings that same type of running style as Ramondre, but nevertheless, though, I think he can be a great addition to this room. And we all know how much Mike Vrabel loves his running backs. I'm not saying he'll be Derrick Henry or nothing like that, of course, but I think it'd be very serviceable for this Patriots offense going forward in his career. At pick 77, their second, third round pick, I'm looking at interior defensive line, right? We don't know the certainty of Christian Barmore right now. Hopefully he can come back healthy. As of right now, he will be, or Mike Vrabel has announced that he's looking forward to seeing him during the offseason workouts when they report to offseason training. I want to say around like May, you know what I'm saying? Whenever that happens. So he should be there. Hopefully he is there. But nevertheless, though, you want to bring in some more rotational pieces, right? Because you did lose one of your depth pieces to the defensive line in free agency. I forgot his name, but I think he got traded to the Saints. Has a New Orleans type last name as well. I forgot his name. But Ty Hamilton out of the Ohio State University, right? You bring him in. I think he's one of the most underrated tackles in all of college football. Massive in size. Has some good pass rush ability as well, can generate pressure. I think it'd be a great compliment, as like I said, a rotational piece to come in and play alongside Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, whoever else they have lining up. But then they have a really good nose tackle as well, I want to say, in New England. Chris Tonga, I think I say pronounce his last name. Or Kyrisi. I'm sorry, he's Polynesian descent, it looks like. So he's on the older side, but maybe he can come in and be serviceable. He's a starting nose tackle right now. But if not, we'll see, right? I may be reaching on that one. But nevertheless, though, I think bringing in some more D tackle help would be really good for them this upcoming NFL season. Now, for the last pick, well, I'm sorry, not the last pick, but their fourth round pick, if he's still on the board, and he's definitely been a guy's rising up the draft board, right? To a lot of guys out there, potentially a day 2 pick for sure. Early day 2 pick or late, doesn't matter, right? David Walker, edge rusher out of Central Arkansas. A guy that had a really sound collegiate career for Central Arkansas, right? Now, of course, not many people, including myself, can tap in with Central Arkansas football. I'm not even sure they're D1. They're probably D2, right? Not sure. But during his time there, baller. Last year had 10.5 sacks. 2023 had 7.5 sacks. And during his freshman campaign, he had 12 sacks. So what did that tell you? He can get after the quarterback. Around 6'2", 260. Has a arsenal of pass rushing moves from being able to bend, coming off the edge, straight line speed, bull rushing, good chop moves, so on and so forth, right? Forcing fumbles as well. He had 4 forced fumbles this year during his last season with Central Arkansas. So the guy's a baller. I'm surprised a guy like this didn't hit the transfer portal, knowing his state. He is a bit older, 24 years of age, right? He'll be 25 in June. But nevertheless, though, this is a guy that can potentially have that Byron Young type impact for this team, right? An older rookie, who's played a lot of football, can come in and be a day 1 difference maker. The only thing I would say that's probably hurting him right now is his age. He'll be 25 years old by the time he kicks off his career. But, I think he can have a lengthy career, right? And he comes from the FCS, man. Highly productive for sure. And these are the type of guys that the Patriots land. You're like, damn, how the hell did he fall in the draft? Well, because of his age, but damn, he got here and he's a baller, right? I think he can definitely play 6-7 seasons in this league and be productive, in my opinion. So, yeah, look out for someone like David Walker, edge rusher out of Arkansas. I think these 5 players will be excellent picks for the Patriots to work with. And if you can grab guys like Will Campbell, like I specified, and Jaden Higgins, and, of course, Caleb Johnson, the rest of the draft is, of course, hit or miss with gems or, guys that can definitely develop over time. But throughout these first 3 picks, those are day 1 contributors, right? They can definitely help this offense out a lot. You already have significant contributions coming in defensively from the free agency class you brought in, which I love the idea of that, right? Spending money in free agency on defense, securing the offensive line, bringing in a franchise tackle, but also potentially grabbing a wide receiver 2 and a potential RB1 in the draft as well. So, yeah, I think the Patriots, they can do those if they can do those things within the first 4 rounds with their first 5 picks, they'll be good. They'll be good in my opinion. So, moving on to the New York Jets. And I may have screwed up with this New York Jets draft. Now I'm looking at it because I have a particular player going somewhere that I didn't want him to go. But regardless, though, I'll work with it. I'll work with it. It doesn't matter. I'll work with it. The New York Jets had a very promising off season, in my opinion, right? I absolutely love the hiring of Aaron Glenn. He's going to bring in such a better mentality and philosophy and coaching than what they had under Robert Saleh. Now, Robert Saleh is a head coach that didn't get a fair shot when it comes to his quarterback play. The coordinators he brought in offensively, I think he did a phenomenal job of building that defense up to what it is right now. But offensively, he was hand-tied a bit, right? Due to Woody Johnson's wanting for Zach Wilson, his wanting for Aaron Rodgers, and of course letting Rodgers do what he needed to do to bring in as much pieces as possible to make him comfortable and say that, hey, Rodgers is giving you the full arsenal, do your thing. And of course, Rodgers tears his Achilles and you're left with Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett and so much incompetency. Robert Saleh wasn't dealt a fair hand, a fair deck of cards, right, I would say, right? But at the end of the day, he still wasn't good enough as a head coach, which is why they fired him before the season even ended last year. He got fired within the first 4 weeks of the year. So you bring in Robert Saleh, who is a New York Jet through and through, right? He got drafted to the Jets as a rookie coming into the league, playing under Parcells, right? Great tutelage, great mindset. Worked his way up from scout to defensive backs coach to defensive coordinator under Dan Campbell, and now the head coach for the New York Jets. So what did he do, right? What did they do in free agency? They brought in Justin Fields, which was a big signing. Of course, he's their quarterback 1, and I love that for them. They brought in Brandon Stevens, right? A guy that many Jets fans are saying that we didn't need him. Not really a big fan of that. There were other corners on the market we could have got, but I think Brandon Stevens is okay. And I think he can definitely fit what Aaron Glenn wants to do defensively from a zone-based coverage scheme in his back end, right? You signed Andre Cisco, who, in my opinion, struggled last year mightily. He's been on an all-time hate viewpoint right now from his comments on Shedeur Sanders patting the football at his pro day, and people are flooding him saying, oh, you're an idiot, blase, blase. You let Caleb Williams pat the ball these times and he lit you up, so on and so forth. Hey, Darius Slayton said his piece as well. It was a very interesting timeline for Andre Cisco this weekend. But nevertheless, though, Andre Cisco comes into a defense that has a need for a safety play. They have great corners and Sauce Gardner. You have a great defensive-minded head coach. I think Andre Cisco will be better with this Aaron Glenn defense, right? He can be that Kirby Joseph type, strong safety where they, have him playing all over the field. I think his 2023 tape is a lot better than his 2024 tape without question. He has enough range to cover each side of the field, in my opinion. And he's also a sound tackler as well, right? And he's a playmaker when the ball's in the air. He comes down with interceptions and so on and so forth. So, and he's a sound safety that, in my opinion, will be better in a new spot. Given that I'm a Jaguars fan and I watched him throughout his entire career so far. So I like Cisco a lot. It's unfortunate it didn't work out for him in Jacksonville, but nevertheless, though, new change of scenery, better off for his career. And also, they brought in who else? Josh Myers, Derek Nottie, great signing, right? You get to pair him alongside Quinnen Williams, right, up front. That's a big time signing for them. Josh Reynolds, Ty Johnson, some dead pieces. The resigning of Jamin Sherwood, he's going to take over as a starting linebacker with CJ Mosley no longer being there. You still got Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner. Um, you're gonna have Jermaine Johnson coming back off his injury. Will McDonald the fourth, who was amazing last year. So you have year 3 for him. Um, so yeah, this Jets defense, is promising, right? But they're going to add some pieces in the draft, in my opinion. But in my personal opinion, I think they have enough pieces on the defense to be fine for now. We'll see how it turns out during the season and what they do in the draft. But I think they need to focus more so on their offense because I named a lot of defensive pieces they brought in, but not a lot of surefire starters offensively, right? They lost, of course, Aaron Rodgers. They lost Devontae Adams. They lost DJ Reed and Javon Kinlaw as well. But, I'm looking at this list. They also lost Morgan Moses, right? Teron Smith, Hassan Reddick, and Brandon Eccles. But, Morgan Moses, Teron Smith, these are starters on their offense. They lost. Aaron Rodgers, starting quarterback, they lost, right? They replaced him with a younger one, in my opinion, who will be better for this offense going forward. But Devontae Adams, that's a huge loss. I thought they were going to be able to keep him, but we all know Tay, he wants to play with legitimate quarterbacks, and I don't blame him. So, if it ain't Rodgers, we'll go play with Matthew Stafford. Great send off for his career, in my opinion. But what do the Jets do, right? Now, I think it's kind of hard to really dictate where the Jets doing at pick 7. Um, I think they've had a different. I think it really depends on what the Raiders and Jaguars do for their draft stake, in my opinion. Right? They could trade up in this year's draft to grab the guy they really want, but at pick 7, I think he'd be worth the pick because I think he's considered a blue chip prospect. Right? He's a phenomenal talent offensively. He can come in and be shit. Realistically, I got a lot of love for Garrett Wilson. He's a phenomenal receiver, but you bring in someone like at pick 7, Tyler Warren, the tight end of Penn State, he could eventually turn into the wide receiver 1 or option 1 offensively. Call me crazy, man, but Tyler Warren has that potential. I think Garrett Wilson's a phenomenal receiver. I would probably consider him a tier 2 receiver, but Tyler Warren could come in and be a tier 1 tight end off rip, right? And we all know the current OC now for the Jets. Pulling his name up right now because I honestly forgot. But the current OC now for the Jets was, of course, the I want to say passing game coordinator for the Lions. Yeah, passing game coordinator alongside Mark Brunell, right? Tanner Ekstrom. If I pronounce his name wrong, his last name wrong, forgive me. But he comes in. I think he it was an OC from Michigan. So he's gonna run some pro style concepts. I would definitely say for sure he's gonna cater his offense to his quarterback, which does well for Justin Fields. But I think you're gonna have some, heavy dose of run, play action, getting the best playmakers involved on drags, slants, easy options for the quarterback to recognize on routes and whatnot. But you're going to be able to see him potentially have someone like Sam Laporta at the tight end spot and someone like Tyler Warren, who, in my opinion, is better than Laporta coming into the draft. And that'll be amazing for the Jets offense, right? They haven't had a tight end in a very long time that can be a difference maker for their team offensively. And I think Tyler Warren can come in and be a difference. I mean, they honestly haven't had a duo of weapons at the receiving position to come in and be difference makers, right? When was the last time they had an exciting wide receiver duo or a receiving duo, right? What was it Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker? Something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might be pulling like, wild card right now, man. But it's been a long time since the Jets have had a legitimate wide receiving option duo. And if you compare Garrett Wilson up with Tyler Warren, I think that's fun offense, man. That is really fun offense. Something that Tanner can work with. And of course, Justin Fields can work with as well because he has that continuity with Garrett Wilson. But you bring in a tight end, a quarterback's best friend that you can utilize him all over the field, get the ball out quick, let him get open in space. He's an amazing yak tight end as well, so he can make you miss in open space. He won't come down on first contact. He can crib a screen pass that's for 40 yards, in my opinion, to the pay dirt, untouched. You know what I'm saying? Damn near, man. The guy is a freak of an athlete. Penn State, their team raves about him so much on how elite of a talent he is from a work standpoint and also from an overall production standpoint. Tyler Warren's legit, man. You watch that USC tape, man, he was gassed that whole game, but he was all over the place. So Oregon tape, I mean, he was phenomenal to watch, man. He was the bread and butter of that Penn State offense this year. They utilized him in so many different ways, and I think Tanner has the offensive creativity coming from Ben Johnson to do the same thing with Tyler Warren, potentially if he's indeed a seventh overall pick. Now, at pick 42, I'm still on that side of one, bringing in weapons for Justin Fields and also bringing in offensive lineman help, right? Minnesota's offensive lineman, I can't pronounce his first name. I'm just going to call him Tay Ursay. All right, Ariante Ursay, offensive lineman, tackle from Minnesota. He can come in immediately, I'm sorry. He can come in immediately, in my opinion, and be their starting right tackle, right? You already have Alou Fashanu, you have John Simpson, you have Joe Tippmann, and I do like Elijah Vera Tucker, man. I think healthy Elijah is great with football, right? But on the other side, you have Chuka Wuma Okafor, journeyman tackle, 27 years of age. Right, I'm looking at the depth chart right now. That's not a guy you potentially see as a long time starter. You bring in Ursay or Ursay out of Minnesota, you can plug him into the right side, and you have a talented offensive line for Fields to work with from a pass pro standpoint, and also from a running standpoint as well, from pass pro and also run blocking. Man, that'll definitely be a great front for Fields to work with. Probably one of the best offensive lines he's working with so far in his career. And that's something that we've talked about so much for Justin Fields, right? Get this man an O line. The Bears couldn't do it. He had a decent O line last year with the Steelers, but he lost his job to Russell Wilson, who came in and pretty much did great in small small sample size. And then when football got played, of course, he phased out as well. So I think with the Jets, I think Fields will get his fair opportunities, but also they have to bring in weapons and offensive line help. And I think with those first two picks, those are home run cornerstone pieces. At pick 73 in the third round, I'm sticking with offense, man. Go out there and grab a receiver, a legitimate wide receiver too that can blossom alongside Garrett Wilson. The receivers right now in New York are not good. Like, they're not good, man. You just have G5, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Josh Reynolds, Xavier Gibson. Like, these aren't guys. Tyler Johnson, Malachi Moore, their second round pick last year, or third round pick last year. Yeah, third round pick last year that didn't do anything. Maybe he'll get some more opportunities this year with the new offense, but those aren't guys you want to lean on, right? You already have a tight end at pick 7 that I think is going to definitely come in and be a difference maker. But go out there and get Jalen Royals, I'm sorry, out of Utah State, man. About 6', 6'1", good compact receiver. He's going to be that possession type guy. Has some underrated speed on him as well. I think he has all the abilities of being a really sound receiver in football, man. One of the most underrated receivers in this class because, of course, people don't watch Mountain West football. If you did, you only watched Ashton Genty. But not a lot of people watched or had eyes on Jalen Royals. And, I think he's a receiver that can definitely be good for this Jets offense. Who would I compare him to? I've seen a lot of comparisons. I would probably compare him more to someone like Romeo Dobbs. I think he's a bit smaller than Romeo Dobbs, though. Let me get his actual weight and measurables. But Romeo Dobbs is about 6'2", about 210. So Jalen is 6', 205. Ran a 4.4 240. So he has the speed, man. So yeah, he's gonna be special in my opinion, right? Hopefully he can come into this Jets offense and take over and really be that great compliment for Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson to work with, man. But I think this would be offense. You see where I'm going. Of course, Aaron Glenn's a defensive-minded head coach, but the offense, man, they need some pieces. I think you got enough off defense to work with. You got to bring in some offense with these first 3 picks. And that's kind of been my thing for the Patriots, too. But Jets and Patriots, attack offense early in this year's draft, man, because your team desperately needs it. Now, I picked 110 in the 4th round. I have Aaron Glenn going defense. Like I said, you brought in Derek Nottie to be up front with Quentin Williams, but you can always use some more rotational piece help up front, right? Because you did lose some other guys, and you like the potential Leonard Taylor. You brought in Byron Coward for depth, but you can never have too much beef up front. Pause. And you already pretty much set that edge rusher. You could have went quarterback. I'm sorry, you could have went linebacker with this, but you like the potential of someone like Zaire Barnes and this new defense. I'm looking at defensive tackle still, right? You bring in a guy that can be a rotational piece. Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, underrated D tackle in this year's class. Maybe a day 3 pick. I can see him being a day 2 pick, but as of right now, day 3. Run stopper, high motor, right? He's a guy that's gonna be all over the field, right? Pressures, quarterback sacks not really his thing, but under Matt Rule in Nebraska, he was definitely, without question, one of their better defenders, right? I want to pull up some of his numbers right now. Let's see. Last year, he gave you 7 sacks. I'm sorry. He is getting after the quarterback, right? As a senior. So as a 5th year or 6th year senior because of the COVID seasons, but 7 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 21 solo tackles, 31 in total, or 37 in total, combined solo and assists. Those are some great numbers. 4 pass deflections as well. Those are some great numbers for a D tackle that's 6'6", 310. Now, that guy can play, man. That man can really play. I've been seeing him rise to the boards. I've been seeing him in some of the Jaguar models. Like, I'm going to take a look at his highlights and whatnot. He can definitely play, man. I think he can definitely turn into without question, a developmental starter. All right, Derek Nottie's older, right? He's about like entering his 30s. You can bring in someone like Ty Robinson, let him develop alongside Leonard Taylor the second, and you never know what could happen, right? So I think Ty Robinson would be a great pickup for Aaron Glenn to work with, and also, like I said, more beef up front rotational pieces, where you can always have fresh legs for Derek Nottie, Quentin Williams in certain situations. But of course, who knows? He can blossom into a eventual starter a year or two from now. So those first 4 picks, I like it for the Jets, right? Attack offense early. In the back end of the draft, you go defense, right? You bring in probably another linebacker, another corner. You still have a really good core, in my opinion, with Sauce Gardner, Mike Carter, right? One of the best nickels in this game. Probably bringing some more safety play, right? To pair alongside Cisco. Who do you currently have right now playing safety? Oh, Tony Adams. Tony Adams is really sound too. So yeah, I mean, I know Aaron Glenn's a defensive minded head coach, but outside of the the first round pick they have, unless one just falls into the lap, I don't see them going defense within the first 2 days of the NFL draft, personally. But we'll see. You can't underestimate a defensive minded head coach. You may go all nothing but defense and address offense later. I doubt it, but you never know, right? So yeah, man, that'll be really good for the New York Jets. Now, moving on to the next team, who, in my opinion, lost a lot of depth and starters during the offseason. I mean, a ton of losses, right? They've added some okay pieces, more so depth pieces, right? But the Miami Dolphins, man, they're going to have to be active during this year's draft, right? It starts at pick 13, and I'm going to get into that. Well, let me talk about what they lost and what they brought in. So their departures, Kendall Fuller, starting corner. I was surprised by the departure, but he wasn't that good for them last year. Jordan Poyer, Raheem Mostert, Calais Campbell. That was a huge, huge miss, man. I thought he was going to resign with the Dolphins or, not go to Arizona, but, lost him. That was one of their best run stoppers, of course. And Javon Holland, who had a down year last year, but that's a young safety that hit the market. So you have a need for safety play. Cornerback play. Safety play, defensive line play, cornerback play. And lastly, due to his retirement, all of a sudden, Teron Armstead takes a check out, man. He checks out. Kind of figured that could potentially happen after the pay cut he took to begin the offseason, right? For them to allocate the resources into bringing in free agents and possibly re-signing some key pieces. But he's checking out, man. Great career to him. Future Hall of Famer. Had a phenomenal career with the Saints and Dolphins. Made a lot of money, man. Hats off to him, right? Enjoy retirement, Teron, but now you have to look into someone like Patrick Paul, one of their second round picks last year, or third round picks. I'm quite sure it was second round pick. It's a big moment for him, right? Big kid out of Houston. He was bad in moments last year, but now as a full-time starter, you got to get right, right? But there are other pieces. James Daniels, that's going to be a big piece for them coming in out from Pittsburgh. He's going to be the starting guard. Ifantu Melifonwu, depth safety. Nick Westbrook, Akiri. I'm calling him touchdown god, right? The guy that got all these touchdowns last year, not a lot of receiving yards, but I like the potential of Nick with this offense alongside, of course, Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, right? So you bring in Tyrell Dawson, and like I said, with the signings of KJ Britt, Willie Gay Jr., the Dolphins definitely made a huge emphasis. Okay, we're gonna bring in some linebackers, right? Some veteran linebackers. We're going to address the cornerback CB2 role, safety role. He brought in Ashton Davis, Ifantu Melifonwu. I think Ashton will be the starter for the free safety, but you're more than likely going to need a strong safety to come in because I'm not sure if Ifantu is going to be the guy you want. I like the James Daniels signing, right? So yeah, those are some of their. I think they signed someone else that was a bigger name too. I'm not seeing it. Oh, they signed a swing tackle and Larry Broom. So, I mean, you have to address the offensive line, right? That's first and foremost because Tua was getting hit a lot last year. We all know with concussions, they got to find better ways to protect Tua. Now, you have your two tackle spots, right? You have Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson. I think it'll be very remiss if they were to pass up on a star caliber cornerstone tackle, a Christian Darrisaw tackle, or Rashawn Slater type tackle in this year's class at pick 13. Patrick Paul was their pick last year in the second round, but he was bad. He trusts development, but he was bad. Austin Jackson is coming into his own, right? Former first round pick back in 2020. About damn time, but he's coming into his own, right? But if you have someone on, like I said, on the draft board, you're looking and you're like, damn, man, who can come in? We don't have to worry about him being an issue, right? We don't have to worry about him being a problem. I think you look at someone like Armand Membu out of Missouri, tackle, left tackle. He can come in and compete for a tackle spot, rather if it's right or left. He's a day one starter, in my opinion, man. You don't want to go into the season, in my opinion, with Patrick Paul, Austin Jackson, and some swing tackles being your depth. It'll be nice to go out there and grab Membu, in my opinion, right? Guy that's been rising. I mean, skyrocketing off the draft boards. Massive tackle, prototypical size, arm length, so much more, man. Pass pro, all of that, man. He is a phenomenal tackle for the Missouri Tigers, and I think he'll be really good in the NFL as well, right? Potential cornerstone piece, arguably top 3 tackle in this year's class, in my opinion, behind Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks Jr. I know what Kelvin Banks Jr. has been sliding down the draft board, but I do believe the best 3 tackles in this class are Campbell, Banks Jr., and Membu. And I think that'd be a great pickup for this team, right? Now, of course, left tackle for a left-handed quarterback isn't the blind side of protection. So he'll be more so depending in run blocking and whatnot, pretty much doing what Teron Armstead did. But nevertheless, though, right, you need a solidified left tackle for any offense. I don't care if the quarterback's left-handed or right-handed. And I think Membu can step in and take over Patrick Paul. And if Patrick Paul ends up being your swing tackle, I don't think that's a bad issue, right? It's not a bad problem to have, right? Because you have 3 capable starters alongside Larry Borom, the swing tackle you brought in via free agency, and Keon Smith, right? You have pieces you can work with, but you want to have the cream of the crop talent. And if you can bring in Armand, that'll be good for the Dolphins. And of course, Mike McDaniels to work with it. Nevertheless, though, man, they need some beef and they need some push up front, man. They need a dog-like attitude for their offensive line, man. Their offensive line has been pretty much the joke of all jokes when it comes down to, of course, playoff caliber football, and also when they're going up against big-time teams, right? So if you can bring in someone like Armand, that'll be good for this offense going forward. Right? He gives them an identity like, hey, we're going to continue to run the ball and we're going to run behind our big 6'6" tackle and Armand Membu. And also, who knows with Patrick Paul? Who knows how that works out, man? But I like the potential of Armand, Paul, Jackson, and their swing tackles they have off the bench. Now, the second round pick 22, I'm still all for protecting Tua, right? And in this mock draft, he slid. I'm not sure how he slid, but I say grab him because James Daniel is a good guard you brought in, a solid, capable guard you brought in free agency. But Liam Etchenberg was bad last year. He's on the older side as well. Not too old, but entering the 30s, 27, 20, close to 30 years of age, right? And he's not peaking. He's somewhat declining, in my opinion. That's how I see it, right? You bring in Tyler Booker, arguably the best guard in this class if he falls in the second round. That'll be an amazing pickup, right? If you can have Armin Membu, Tyler Booker, Aaron Brewer, James Daniels, and Austin Jackson for your starting tackles, starting offensive line with two to work with and the weapons they have offensively, that is some good problems to have, in my opinion. I like that a lot. Tyler Booker was an amazing captain for the Alabama Crimson Tide's offense. Didn't have the best combine. Don't care about it. He's a guard. What more do you want to see from a guard besides 20-yard shuttles and 10-yard splits and so on? Man, can't turn on the tape. Can he play? Can he go out there and maul you? Can you run behind him? Can he put someone on his ass when you're when you're getting out in space? Run blocking. How agile is he when it comes down to picking up blockers and whatnot, right? Our linebackers come off a blitz. What can he do? And I think he definitely can do all of those things, man. So I think Tyler Booker will be an amazing pickup for the Dolphins in the second round if he's available. Home run, first two picks, in my opinion. Now, moving on to the defense. They got to grab some pieces on the side of the football, right? And I think these next two picks are definitely going to be vital. I have them going at pick 98. Latham Ramsey, safety out of The Ohio State University, right? I think Latham projects more as a strong safety in the NFL. He has solid coverage skills, right? But if you watch his tape, he's getting downhill, making tackles in space, right? Blowing up plays, so on and so forth. He needs to get better with his technique, but that can improve in the NFL level. But he can definitely come in and be what they wanted from Jordan Poyer last year, right? But younger. And of course, in my opinion, I think a lot of teams, especially picking in the top 15, should be throughout the entire draft, but pretty much in the top 15 that needs to have some game changers on their side of the football, rather if it's offense or defense. They got to bring in some guys that play championship caliber football. And why not go after some safeties and corners and defensive players from The Ohio State University, right? Latham, one of the most underrated safeties in football, in my opinion. Of course, he's behind the Makubas, Watts, the safety, Kevin, I forgot his last name, junior out of Penn State, right? Of course, he will be probably behind those guys, but nevertheless, though, Ramsey can play some good football. I don't know why his name just slipped my thought process, but I have it written here somewhere. But nevertheless, though, right? I think it'll be good. Kevin Winston Jr. I'm sorry, I had to get that name correct. But if you can bring in someone like Latham Ramsey to come in and play in the defense that got better over time last year with your Ramsey, your Cater Coos, whoever the next starting cornerback is going to be, Ashton Davis, the linebackers, and the up fronts. You definitely want to address that for sure. And they more than likely will address it in the draft. But I think their cornerback play and their safety play may be more. I want to say this with all due respect, but it may be a bit more important for them to address their back end or their front seven, in my opinion, right now. They need some D-tackle play for sure. They need it. But, man, that safety room and that cornerback room outside of Ramsey, it's looking really bad. Right? And you have to cover somebody, especially in the AFC East, when you're going up against quarterbacks such as Josh Allen, Drake May, and Justin Fields. You know what I'm saying? He throws one of the best deep balls in football when he has a chance. So we'll see. All right. With the With the what we at, pick 116 in the 4th round, got him going corner. And this is a corner that's been rising up the board as well. Could he be the potential next Tariq Woolen, right? Comes from the same school, UTSA. Damn near same size, 6'3", ran a 4.3 640, long and rangy corner, has great ball skills, strong in coverage as well. Zaf Frazier, cornerback out of UTSA, big frame, can be definitely filled out more on the next level. And you play alongside another big frame corner and Jalen Ramsey, who's getting a bit older, but still playing some really good football right now. I think it'll be good. I think it'd be good, man. Like I said, tall, rangy, has the ability to get his hands on you, knock you off a little bit, but also stay in good coverage. Willing tackler, excellent either. I think he's more so of a zone corner, right? But he can definitely play man when given opportunities. And even though UTSA doesn't play good football historically, but they finished out 7-6 last year, and then their defense was solid, and he was definitely a huge reason for why they were successful last year, and they had a winning record. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, so I like the potential of Zaf Frazier rising up the boards a lot this year. And you're 6'3", 4.3 640, tall, rangy. Everyone wants a Madden type cornerback in the NFL, right? A guy that can, it's built on a video game, but can definitely translate to the real life, pro. So we'll see. I think that'd be a good pickup for them, a good cornerback 2 or cornerback 3, depending on how that depth shakes out. Because they still have Kader Cole, Cam Smith. Maybe Cam Smith can turn it around, but I like that. Now, pick in the 4th round, 135. Right here, I'm addressing the defensive line. And I know it took me a while to address that, but right here, I'm going to do so, right? And I'm looking at Virginia Tech D tackle. Got to pronounce his name correctly. I'm sorry. But I'm looking at, I'll come back. All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. So I know in this mock draft for the Dolphins, you're probably not going to be a fan of it if you're a Dolphins fan, because I tried to address, why I thought was more serious needs, but this is a deep D tackle class, right? You can find a potential day one starter that can definitely turn out to have a very solid career in the NFL. Maybe not a future Hall of Fame career or even a Pro Bowler, All Pro, but it's a sound D tackle. Enos Pebbles out of Virginia Tech in the 4th round, a guy that's been rising up the boards as well. He's a guy that is known more so as a space eater, can generate opportunities for others, which you will love to see because of the edge rushing play you guys have out there. And of course, Bradley Chubb, when healthy, Jalen Phillips and Chop Robinson. But Peoples was a productive D tackle for the Virginia Tech Hokies, right? This past year, he finished with 30 total tackles, 3 sacks. Don't have the pressures up, but I'm quite sure he definitely was pretty high on that. The year before last, he was even better. 44 total tackles, 5 sacks as a 6'1", 300-pound D tackle. Really great in my opinion when it comes to his size. So he's very tenacious, man. One of the top 25 players in the ACC this past year, according to a lot of people out there. and he has been rising. I think he's currently on PFF's top 300 big board at 115. Not too bad in my opinion. So Peoples is a guy that may not be around day 3, but if he is, you got to go up to that draft podium and select him, right? I think he can definitely come in and contribute day 1. Maybe not a day 1 starter, but as the year goes on, can definitely step into a starting role and be a guy that you can build around and bring in more pieces, right? If it's in the draft early in the picks than I had or next year. But nevertheless, though, I think people can come in and definitely make opportunities better for Chop Robinson, Phillips, and Bradley Chubb when all 3 of those guys are healthy. All right. Moving on to the Buffalo Bills, who have been very active this offseason as well, more so from an extension standpoint, because they pretty much extended their entire young core, right? From Josh Allen to Christian Benford to Terrell Bernard. Who else got an extension? Khalil Shakur, DeMar Hamlin. Shout out to him, right? Todd Johnson, running back, right? They got a lot of people got extensions for this Bills team, right? They lost some pieces. Micah Hyde to retirement, Von Miller, Nicholas Moreau from depth, Amari Cooper, DeJuan Smoot, Rizzo Douglas was a big miss in my opinion, which I think they will address that need in the draft. Traded away Kyrie Elam, a bust of a first round pick, unfortunately. Shout out to my Gators, man. But he did not pan out well in the NFL, which is very odd because I thought he was going to be one of the most safest picks at the cornerback level from the 2023 NFL draft or 2023 NFL draft. And he was a guy that had turnovers, but he got outplayed by Christian Benford and many other corners on that team. And I think the AFC Championship pretty much let you know that, hey, this guy's not good. And that's what happened. And then pretty much why they lost that game, because once Benford went down with his concussion, they attacked Kyrie Elam time and time again. So obviously, you got to get rid of the odd man, and Kyrie Elam was definitely the odd man out. But the free agency acquisitions, right? Dane Jackson, quality corner coming from the Carolina Panthers, right? Underrated in my opinion. On the older side, but definitely can come in and be a CB2 for right now, in my opinion. Josh Palmer, really underrated signing, right? I think he had a solid, underrated career with Justin Herbert. I think he had to deal with some injuries this past year, but Palmer can play. And he was a focal point in that offense under Brandon Staley. Not so much this year, but like I said, due to his injuries, I want to say it was injured. I have to go back and check, but nevertheless, though, I like the Josh Palmer signing a lot, right? Joey Bosa, I love that signing a ton. You bring in a edge 2, edge 3, however you want to say it, depending on how. I think he's edge 2 for right now, playing opposite side of Gregory Rousseau. They still have AJ Espinoza, right? Good rotational piece, and obviously I think it'd be better than what Von Miller was as a just a third down guy, right? So you have Dane Jackson, Joey Bosa, Josh Palmer, Derek Forrest, right, from the Commanders, depth piece at the safety level, someone that can come in and compete. We'll see what happens. They have Taylor Rapp still and DeVar Hamlin, but you never know with that. Larry Ogunjobi, I like that signing a lot, but he's going to be suspended the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. So that puts a not really a division, but it puts how can I say it? It puts a wedge in their draft plans per se, because they may have went cornerback at pick 30. They may have gone receiver, running back, dealing with this whole James Cook situation, right? Who knows if James Cook gets brought back, because this sounds like they have no improvement in contract talks. We'll see how that goes. But, at pick 30, though, as a transition to this, after talking about the Larry Ogunjobi suspension, I think they're definitely going defensive line, right? He was brought in to play alongside Ed Oliver. And I think they bring in a force to come in. Not sure if he'll even be here, but in the mock, they had him falling. I think he is a top 25 player in this year's draft. But Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan, a true nose at a D tackle spot. But man, that boy can definitely cause chaos, man. He can wreak some havoc. He can be an all-time defensive tackle in this year's in the NFL, and in the next 4 to 5 years, right? I know Mason Graham and Walter Nolan get a lot of love, as they should, but Kenneth Grant's a baller, man. Run stuffer. Run stuffer, right? Playing alongside Ed Oliver, and the other amazing pieces they have on that front seven. And of course, the defensive mastermind of Sean McDermott. I don't think they'll be letting a lot of Philly tush pushes or quarterback sneaks happen to them on 4th and 1s anymore, in my honest opinion, right? I think they can definitely bring in someone like Grant who can stop all of that from happening, right? Great push up front, right? He'll create so much opportunities for others and also get on his own. He'll get his on his own too, right? He's a ball player, man. He's going to be a baller in this league, and I think it'd be an excellent pick for this Bills defense, right? He can definitely reshape how things are ran for this Bills defense. They already were solid last year with the pieces they had, but if you can bring in someone like Grant that can cause more chaos, which makes the time clock shorter for the corners and the back, which gives them opportunities to be more sticky in coverage because they're getting so much push up front from their front seven, and of course the edge rushing play. Like, oh my gosh, man, that'll be a difference maker, right? That may put them over the top and get them to the championship game. Who knows? But definitely for sure, their defense will still be a force to be reckoned with. And of course, once he gets done with the six-game suspension, you'll have Larry Ogunjobi coming in to be a rotational piece or starter alongside. Who knows how they'll make it work? But I think if McDermott can grab somebody like Kenneth Grant, that'll be an amazing haul. At pick 49, they got to address the tackles. I mean, they got to address the safeties, in my opinion, right? They have to address the safeties. DeMar Hamlin, great story, but he's not a long-term starter, in my opinion. He got a second contract. He was solid last year, but you got to go out there and grab a difference maker, right? DeMar Hamlin isn't a difference maker. He's a safe guy, but he's not a difference maker. Taylor Rapp, he's not a difference maker. He's a safe guy, but he's not a difference maker because when it comes down to it, you can have your big-time receivers just pretty much run past those guys or have them confusing coverage. We saw those safeties getting abused in the division around the playoffs. They got whooped up on, right? They got beat up on pretty much in that second half. Well, not really beat up on, but they had their blemishes against the Chiefs offense as well throughout the first half, and of course, some parts of the second half of the AFC Conference Championship game. But if they can go out there and grab Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, man, that'll be a great pickup. Whoa, that'll be a great pick. I'm talking an instant day one starter, arguably the third top three without question. Best safety in this year's class. You can never go wrong with getting a Notre Dame safety either, right? The last one to come out of Notre Dame was, I want to say, Kyle Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken, right? Could have been some more, but of course, Kyle was the guy. And I think Xavier may not be as good as Kyle, but he can definitely come in and be a force. I think Watts projects as a future top 10 safety in this league without question, man. That boy can play. And like I said, McDermott, if he can add a piece like this to his defense, look out. At pick 62, their second round pick, they have some quality pickups too, by the way. They have no third round, but they have 1 first, 2 seconds, and 2 fourths. I'm looking at Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State, right? Iowa State has some ball players, right? Shout out to Matt Campbell, head coach for Iowa State, but they have some ballers, and Darian Porter, a guy that's more so new to the cornerback position. I think he's only been playing it for like 2.5 seasons. But man, he is a prototypical size, right? I want to say 6'2", about 190, 195, blazings 40 speed. I think around like a 4.37, 4.35, something around that range. Long, rangy. He's new to the position, but he's a ball hawk. He kind of reminds me of Trayvon Diggs, but faster. And me personally, I like to grab a cornerback that has some receiving background, right? Which is why Travis Hunter is going to be a top 3 pick, in my opinion, in this year's draft. But receivers that have corners that have that receiving background, they have a great knack for making plays on the balls in the air, right? They're comfortable with it because they're former receivers, right? They're great at jumping routes, being able to time routes because of them being former receivers. And I think Darian Porter could potentially have a Trayvon Diggs type impact, right? Maybe not an all-pro or a Pro Bowler, but it can definitely be a guy that you look up and say, damn, Darian Porter has 5 interceptions this year. That's not bad for a year 2 corner. That may be even Pro Bowl. That's Pro Bowl status, in my opinion. So now Darian Porter has potential. And like I said, if you can get into a defense that already has some sound pieces around, look out, man, because if you can add Kenneth Grant, Xavier Watts, Darian Porter to a defense that has Boza, Ed Oliver, Gregory Rousseau, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano when healthy, right? Christian Benford, Teron Johnson. These three picks can really take this defense to the next level and make them to the point that of course our offense may have fucked off. Excuse my language, but this defense, they ain't letting anything get past them. They're gonna hold it down, and I think that's what Sean McDermott wants to be about, right? The reason why he bringing Joe Brady last year offensively as a coordinator was to limit the turnovers and make this team to be able to play ahead and not play from behind, right? They had the moments throughout the season where they got into their, turnover frenzy moments, but if you looked at this Bills team, they always were one step ahead, right? When it came down to not turning the football over, being effective in the running attack, right? Playing clean football and defensively, being able to make up plays and opportunities and get key stops. You add these three pieces, come on, man. This Bills team would talk about running it back in the AFC East. They may find themselves right back in the AFC Conference Championship playoff game. And it may be enough to get them over to the top, get to the Super Bowl, and actually this time around win the whole damn thing. We'll see. I like the direction. Moving on to the fourth round, 109. You missed the third round, of course. I think now it's time to potentially add some more weapons. Then they did a good job of bringing in some talent in the receiving corps this offseason, right? You still have Keon Coleman. You have Khalil Shakir. You have Josh Palmer, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, right? The running back room is looking a bit interesting right now, but I'm pretty sure they'll get something done with James Cook. If not, you can give some more draft picks for him. I think their offensive line is pretty sound, and their additions right now: Spencer Brown, Osiris Torrance, Connor McGovern, David Edwards, Deion Dawkins. They're more than fine up there, right? So it makes room for more receivers, and receivers that can definitely be development pieces, right? But also they have some serious juice, right? Because what does Joe Brady want to do offensively, right? He wants to get the ball in his playmakers' hands in open space, right? The bubble screens, the reverses, the short drags, slants, misdirections, motion plays. This bodes well for a guy that can definitely walk right into that and be effective. Ty Felton, receiver out of Maryland, right? I was looking at Brashard Smith right here too, a guy that plays both receiver and running back. I think he's going to be one of those. How can I say this? I think he has the abilities to be. I can't say Debo because he's not as big as Debo. I'm having a brain fart. I'll come back to Brashard Smith. I don't have him going right here, but I wanted to. Maybe a bit early for him, I would say. But I like the potential of Tay Felton right here, right? Big time 40 speed. I want to say he ran a 4.38, if I'm not mistaken. Did he run a 4.38? Let's see. What did he run? Forgive me. I should have this already written down. Ran a 4.37. I mean, if anything, throw him on kickoff returns and punt returns. Let him make something happen, right? And let him develop as a receiver. But he has all the tools, man. Over 1,000 yards receiving for Maryland this past year. 9 touchdowns. The year prior, 723, 6 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, the guy has the opportunities to be a future wide receiver 3. But I think he can definitely come in and be an immediate piece for special teams, right? You put him back there, put the ball in his hands, let him work out. Like I said, I would love to see a receiver like Brashard Smith right here. But like I said, I'm not sure if this is a spot where he may go. But nevertheless, though, they have 2 fourth-round picks, so you never know. And to cap off their last fourth-round pick, I have them going edge rusher Baron Sorrell out of Texas. Now, like I said, they did a good job, in my opinion, in bringing in someone like Joey Boza. You already have Gregory Rousseau. You have AJ Espinoza, but you can never have too many pass rushers. A guy that can definitely develop, come in sparring moments, can be an eventual starter, has great size, all Big 12 player. He's a guy that can play some football, man. This past year had 6 sacks, 44 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, had a pass breakup. He's a guy that can come in and be a rotational piece, man. Has the measurables. Nothing crazy on the speed, but he's a football player. Like I said, you give him in the 4th round, not bad depth. So that'll do it, man. Great AFC East mock draft, a bit more longer and lengthy and video wise from my other previous videos on mock drafts from the AFC, but you know, a lot of these teams can make some serious moves, right? I think the AFC East in totality will be more competitive this upcoming season. From the Patriots to the Dolphins, even the Jets more than likely, but I think the Bills, from what I did in this mock draft, if they can land those top 3 players, man, look out. But thank you all so much for tapping in with me, man. This was a very fun episode once again. If you're listening to on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. We're at 349, trying to get to 500 by or before the NFL draft. Probably won't, but if we can get to 500 by training camp release, that'll be amazing. So please make sure you are subbing to the channel. Also, if you're on Spotify, please make sure you are following the show. And if you're listening to an Apple Podcast or any other platform that you're listening to your podcast typically on, make sure you rate the show and follow the show on those platforms as well. But until next time, man, thank you so much for tapping in with me, man. This was fun, like always. The AFC West is next. Potentially Ashton Denty. Who knows? At pick 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders. But anyways, man, thank you so much for tapping in. Until next time, that is a wrap.